Hi BookTube, it's Gina. Happy Saturday and happy June 1st. Can you believe it's June? Summer's almost here, which I love, and our weather is getting nice. It's a little drizzly today, but we're getting some nice summery weather and I'm super excited about that. And I wanted to hop on and see how you're doing, say hi, do a check-in. I finished some books in May that I want to share with you. And there are some fun events in June that snuck up on me, but that I really want to participate in. And so I've got a few books I want to share with you that I plan to read in June. And I'm going to tell you what I'm currently reading. And sadly, I have a DNF from last month, which I'll get into. I'm a little bit bummed about that. So let's start with the good stuff first, which is June events. The 3 events in June that I have been on my mind that I'm going to participate in, as far as I know, you know me, I'm a little loosey-goosey, are Camp BookTube, which is a sort of event that was thought up by Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading. And I'm going to do a whole video on Camp BookTube because I want to do some staycation camping at home this summer. I'm actually going to do some camping in real life too, but I want to also do some staycation camping at home and do some reading and just like have some good snacks and cuddle up under the covers and read. So I got some Camp BookTube stuff I want to do. It's also Book Trek, and you guys know I love Book Trek. The first year of Book Trek, I was a co-host, but they decided to stretch it out over 3 months, and I can't co-host for a 3-month period, but I still love participating. I love reading Star Trek books, especially when I'm on vacation, and I've got a long weekend coming up next weekend. So, sorry, I got a cat hair. So I got a Star Trek book for that. And then June on the Range. Now I've got a couple June on the Range books. June on the Range. Did I say that Book Trek was hosted by Vin at Revenant Reads? I can't remember if I said that or not. And a whole bunch of other people. June on the Range is hosted by Michael K. Vaughan and another whole bunch of other people. And I've got a couple books that are sort of, let's say June on the Range adjacent. Maybe they're not, I don't think really Westerns in the typical sense of a Western, but I think they qualify, so I'm going to read them. So let's start with that. So I'm going to start with Camp BookTube, and I don't actually have a copy of this. The book I want to read for Camp BookTube to start, and there will be more of these, it's a fantasy book that I saw on Aaron Read a Book. If you have not checked out Aaron's channel, he loves the same kinds of books that we love. He just did a video on some fantasies to read if you're not a fantasy reader, and this one jumped out at me. It is called To Say Nothing of the Dog by Connie Willis. And I think it's part of a series, but he said you could start with this one. I think I also do own Doomsday Book, but I'm going to start with this one. I got it on my Kindle from the library, so I'm going to read To Say Nothing of the Dog, a fantasy for Camp BookTube, because doesn't a nice, juicy fantasy sound great for a staycation camping trip? Yes. For June on the Range, I got from the library on my Kindle, I got Sarah Plain and Tall, which is a middle grade book by Patricia MacLachlen. And have you seen the movie of this? The movie is fantastic. It's quite old now. It's Christopher Walken and Glenn Close, and Sarah Plain and Tall she answers an ad for a wife, and she describes herself as Sarah Plain and Tall, and I love that movie, so I really want to read the book along with that. So that's going to be on my Kindle. And then I've also got Plainsong by Kent Haruf. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. I have owned this book for ages, and I've always wanted to read it. Isn't that cover gorgeous? I don't know much about it, but it's got great reviews. It was published back in 1999, and I really want to read this one. I got the hardcover, which I think is just gorgeous, but I also did get it on my Kindle from the library, so I'll probably end up reading it on my Kindle just because it's more convenient, but I do love this edition. So, so 2 books for June on the range. And then for Book Trek, I've got a big stack of Star Trek books, and I just grabbed one that looked appealing. I love these old paperbacks. This is Mutiny on the Enterprise by Robert E. Vardaman, and this is an original series. So I've got a Disneyland trip planned. I'm going on Thursday. So I've got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for a long weekend at Disneyland. There will definitely be some pool time. So this is going to be what I take with me on my Disneyland trip to kick off Book Trek. I just love these little Star Trek paperbacks. I know they're not everyone's cup of tea, but I love them. So this is Book Trek, Summer of Trek 2024. Let's see. So I think that is it for my TBR. I've got some notes here. Yep, that's it for my June TBR. My currently reading books are Cold Comfort Farm by Stella Gibbons. Look at the cover. It's a cow face. This is a kind of a strange book. So it started out kind of funny, with the main character being a 20-year-old girl whose parents have died and not left her much money. And so she's scouting around for family that she can mooch off of, or as she calls it, be a parasite on. And she's funny, and she's kind of, I don't know, kind of irreverent, and I really love her. But the farm is weird. So she gets to the farm and she turns into kind of a brat, and the people that live on the farm are very weird. And there's some mystery about her and her father that I haven't gotten into yet. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm a little on the fence about this one. I thought I was going to love it after the first chapter, and then when she got to the farm, it turned a little strange. So I'm on the fence. And then this one I've got a Penguin edition, but I'm reading this on my Kindle. I also own it on my Kindle, and this I do not have on my Kindle. So I'm reading this one in the paper edition. I like to have a paper physical copy of a book going that I read during the day downstairs, and then I like to have something on my Kindle that I read in bed at night. So I usually at least have 2 things going. And this is Looking Forward by Marcia Willett. And Marcia Willett, she's sometimes compared to Rosamund Pilcher. I have found her books to be a little bit hit or miss. I've loved a couple of them. Some of them I thought were terrible. But look at that cover. That's adorable. I think I'm going to like this one. So far, I am. Both of these books I saw on Jen's channel, and I'm blanking Jen on her channel name. I'm so sorry. Of course, I'll link it down below. If you love the kind of books that I love, and you haven't already checked out Jen's channel, please do. It's fantastic. She's wonderful, and she loves these kinds of books. It's great to have another voice on YouTube that loves these kinds of books, because we're few and far between, it seems like sometimes. So if you have any recommendations of other people, be sure to leave them down below. And both of these she's recently has mentioned. So that's reminded me that I have them, that I wanted to read them. So I picked them up. All right. And then what I read in May. So the first thing that I read in May that I wanted to talk about is, A Glass of Blessings by Barbara Pym. I've got this fun paperback. This I actually did read on my Kindle too. They have it at the library on the Kindle, so I read it on my Kindle. Let's see, this was published back in 1980? No, 1958. So 1958 it was first published, republished 1980. This is a 1991 edition, so this is from 1958. This is just sort of a story of a woman, a church-going woman, who her circle of friends are an interesting cast of characters. They have, this is very interesting. I read another book with a similar plot where these married couples are all flirting and having these little flings with each other and other people. And it's quite interesting in the 50s. I didn't plan it this way, but I read another book with a similar plot by Angela Thirkell called Ankle Deep. And this one I loved. Barbara Pym is a master at dealing with these relationships and why people do things and the undercurrents of their emotions. I loved this one, Ankle Deep by Angela Thirkell, which had a similar plot line about a group of friends and the flirtations and kind of challenges among them. But Ankle Deep was not very good, surprisingly. I love Angela Thirkell. This one was just not good. It was not very well written. It was a lot of just over analysis about what the characters were thinking, and she was telling us a lot about them, and I just didn't find it very engaging or interesting, whereas this one I loved. So Ankle Deep was a no for me. It was fine, but it wasn't, I wouldn't recommend it, whereas this one I loved. I would definitely recommend. But then I read another Angela Thirkell because I needed to read something by her that I loved, and that was called Summer Half. And I loved Summer Half. That is number 5 in her Barsetshire series, set in the fictional town of Barchester, Anthony Trollope's world. Not much connection, a little bit of connection. Every once in a while she mentions a shared character. That book I loved. It was set in a boys' school, and the teachers they hate the boys, they love the boys. It's just funny. It's so funny. I love Angela Thirkell. It was one of the ones I think that shows her at her best, as opposed to Ankle Deep, which was not very good. But Summer Half, I absolutely loved. And then another love-hate was these two. So I read, this is the Soldier Son trilogy by Robin Hobb. Love Robin Hobb. You guys, I don't know if you remember, a few years ago, I read her Realm of the Elderling series over a summer. Oh, and I loved that series. Loved it. This book, so this is the first Shaman's Crossing in the Soldier Son trilogy. I really enjoyed this one. It is about a young boy, a Fitz-ish character, who is being primed and trained to be a soldier. He is the second son, and the second son is always a soldier in this world. If they're lucky, they can go to the academy and get trained and be an officer. If they're not so lucky, or if they're poor, they become, a grunt. But this one I really enjoyed. It introduced us to a little bit of the magic, which I think is part of the problem with the second book, but magic is sort of secondary, it seems like, in this book. You start to get a little taste of it, but it sort of happens in these dream sequences, and so you never quite know what's going on. This is also set in a boys' school, which I thought was really interesting because Summer Half was also set in a boys' school. This is a military academy. I have some problems with this book. There is a character that's fat. This is also the big problem that I had in the second book. The way that character is treated, is dealt with, is horrible. It's part of the plot. It's part of the magic system in a weird way, and so it was all right. I could see why she was doing it. It's also a lot of rivalry between new nobles and old nobles, which I'm not that interested in. and a lot of the main character being wrongly accused and mistreated for things, which I don't really enjoy all that much. So I had a little bit of struggle with this, but overall I really enjoyed it. I liked it. I was eager to get onto the second book, which I jumped right into and proceeded to despise so far. I'm gonna DNF this book. I got up to I'm almost halfway through. I'm on page 286 out of 730. I don't think I'm going to come back to it. I think this is going to be a hard DNF. The first 200 pages is the main character, the kid, coming home, getting expelled from the academy because he became fat, being locked in his room and tortured by his dad because he was fat. I kind of see where she's going because there's the magic system has to do with this, but we get every meal he eats or every meal he doesn't get to eat, every pea he eats, every in-depth 200 pages of his meals, his starvation. It's horrid. I just found it really tedious, really boring. I don't know. I just I don't think I can go back to it. I'm not interested in it at all, which is super sad because I love Robin Hobb. The writing on this is beautiful. She's a wonderful writer, but I just can't. I found myself just like, I don't want to read and not wanting to even pick it up. So it could have pushed me into a reading slump. I don't know, maybe. I did actually look at some reviews on Goodreads and try and see where it goes. And it looks like where it's going to head is not something that I'm interested in. So I was like, I think I'm just going to DNF it. So that was kind of a bummer. But otherwise, I'm hoping that the Connie Willis book gets me my need for a nice fantasy without the starvation and torture and description of food in this one that just made my eyes glaze over. So anyway, what are you reading this summer? Are you participating in any events? What else is going on? Tell me what's happening. And yeah, I'd love to hear how things are going. Talk to you later. Bye.